Good morning. Let's go back to the list of secretory cells in the stomach, their secretions, and their functions, okay? Excuse me. Haven't talked to anybody this morning. Hell, didn't even talk to the cat. First words I've said all morning. That loud anyway. All right. So, list of secretory cells in the stomach, their secretions, and their functions, okay? Now, you're going to find the chief cells, the parietal cells, and the mucosal cells, all right? Don't really care specifically which area of the stomach they're located. You could learn that if you want to. I wouldn't stop you. But let's take a look at the chief cells themselves, all right? Chief cells. They secrete an enzyme, an inactive enzyme called pepsinogen. P-E-P-S-I-N-O-G-E-N. P-E-P-S-I-N-O-G-E-N. It's the first time we talked about an inactive enzyme, all right? But you don't want an active enzyme secreted by a cell because an active enzyme would digest the cell itself. Unless you were to put it in a vacuole, and it probably would digest the protein structures in a vacuole, okay? So pepsinogen is an inactive protease. You can guess a substrate for a protease, all right? Pepsinogen is going to be activated to pepsin by hydrochloric acid. So this is what I want you to get out of this right here. Pepsinogen is activated to pepsin, HCl, activates pepsinogen to pepsin. It's a better way to write that though, okay? A little bit better way to write it. Let me write it like this, okay? This makes a little more sense. Pepsinogen to pepsin is activated by hydrochloric acid. Now pepsinogen is an inactive enzyme, as I say. Pepsin is an activated protease. It's going to denature proteins. It's not going to make some oligopeptides, all right? 8, 10, 6 amino acid longs. Nothing that can be absorbed across the stomach wall. It's interesting. There are only two things that can be absorbed across the stomach wall. One is aspirin, the other is alcohol. Interesting to know about that. Okay, just for the hell of it. So my chief cells produce pepsinogen. My parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid. Parietal cells produce HCl. Now we talked about the production of HCl, and on 24-14, figure 2414 shows you the secretion of hydrochloric acid, and we talked about that the last time, all right? Secreting a proton from the breakdown of carbonic acid and exchanging the chloride ion exchanging the bicarb ion for the chloride ion, right? And you will see that. Okay. Now, the mucosal cells secrete a mucus. Mucosal cells secrete a mucus. I just write down mucus secreting cells, all right? And that's all right with me, mucus secreting cells. Mucus cells secrete a mucus for protection. Now, there are other cells that secrete stuff in here, all right? There are other cells that secrete stuff in here. There's a gastric lipase that helps break down milk fat. I don't concentrate on that. There's an intrinsic factor secreted by the stomach, but that's more of a hormone. You may remember back a couple of chapters ago on the intrinsic factor necessary for the absorption of vitamin B12 for red blood cell production. You may remember that, you may not, but that's not part of this focus right here. Those are the stomach secretory cells. HCl is formed. Now, I want you to do the gastric or intestinal phase of gastric secretion. On page, let me see, figure 2415, my figure 2415, has gastric or intestinal phase, and just do one or the other. Just tell me a little bit about one or the other. No extra credit if you do both of them or all three of them or whatever. Just tell me one or the other about the gastric phase or this intestinal phase, okay? Now, and you're going to see some interesting concepts here about how these are regulated. That's what I want you to get out of this. The regulatory phase, the regulation of the gastric phase, and the regulation of the intestinal phase. That's what I want you to focus on. You'll find that on 24-15, okay? Now, the region of the small intestine. The duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. Those are the three regions, but we've already listed those, okay? Duodenum's only about a foot long, and not much goes on into it. The chyme from the stomach, that's the food that comes out of the stomach, empties into the duodenum through a duodenal sphincter, okay? But it doesn't stay in the duodenum very long. But attached to the duodenum is a duct from the pancreas and from the liver. So the pancreas and the liver share a hepatopancreatic duct that empties into the liver, a little bitty bump called the something vater, something like that. I hadn't thought about that in a long time anyway. The ampulla of Vater, that's what it's called, the ampulla of Vater. It's a little bitty bump where the secretions empty into the duodenum from the pancreas and the liver, okay? Now what we're going to talk about from the liver is the production of bile shortly, but let's take a look at excuse me, mucosal membrane of the small intestine. Took me a second there, but that's all right, no big deal. What's time to a hog? That's what I understand. We talked about the variations in the mucosal membrane, plica, rugae, okay? As far as folds, in the small intestine, we're going to find some plica. That tells you where the rugae are located, all right? Plica circularis. I not familiar with the term circularis, but plica is a fold in the mucosal membrane. It greatly increases the surface area, and allows the sucker to expand. Okay, now, associated with the plica are villi. That's what I want to take a look at right here. Take a look at the plica, take a look at the villi right here. Now, we have on here, excuse me just one second, about the blood flow into the plica, right? The blood flow into the plica. So I'll take a look at that right here. So, the plica has folds. The mucosal membrane does not look like this right here. It does not look like that at all. This sucker is tortuous, folded, 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 etc., etc., etc. And each one of those folds is a plica. On top of the plica, right here, is folds themselves. Now, this is a distortion, and these are called villi, V-I-L-I-I, villi, right? I want to take a look at one villi right here, one villi, a villus, us, I, Latin, that's all right, not a Latin class. Villi would be plural for villus. One villus right here, one villus right here, on one plica right here, which is one fold of the lumen membrane that we have right here. So here we have a distortion of a villi, and this is on figure 2417. Figure 2417, diagram C that we have right here. What I want you to get out of this is, there's an artery and a vein, no big deal about that. There's also something called a lacteal, an artery and a vein and a lacteal. Now, since I have an artery, red blood, and I have blue for a vein, it's not so bad. Not so bad right here. Venous return right here. And in the middle right here, I've got a lacteal. A lacteal. A lacteal is part of the lymphatic system. It's the beginnings of the lymphatic system. Well, not the beginnings, but it's the lymphatic system in the gut right here. So the lacteal is the lymph. We know what lymph is. We know the 5% of the extracellular fluid has to be returned to circulation through the lymphatic system right here. Well, what in the world is so important about the lymphatic system in the digestive tract? That is where the lipids break down. That's where the fatty acid and the glycerol go. They go to the lymphatic system. The blood is going to pick up the end products of digestion of carbohydrates, the end products of digestion of proteins right there. But the fatty acid and glycerol goes to the lymphatic system, to the lacteal. That's why it is important, okay? You will see green for the lymphatic vessel right there. Lacteal is noted on 2417, okay? Now, the secretions of the pancreas. Can't live without a pancreas. Can't live without a heart either, but that's all right. This is the chapter on digestion, not the chapter on circulation. So let's take a look at the pancreatic secretions right here. Right? pancreatic secretions right here. Now we have an endocrine function and an exocrine function of the pancreas. An endocrine would be the insulin and the glucagon, the hormones secreted by the pancreas. But this is not a chapter on the endocrine system. It's a chapter on digestion. So we're talking about the exocrine functions. The exocrine function of the pancreas right here. Now, there are some islets in the pancreas that secrete the insulin and the glucagon. The rest of the pancreas secretes the digestive enzymes of the pancreas. Very, very important as far as the pancreatic enzymes themselves, okay? So the pancreatic secretions include pancreatic lipase, and I'll ask you, and I want the substrate for lipase. Lipid is a substrate for lipase, breaks it down to fatty acid and glycerol, okay? And there is a trypsinogen, Trypsinogen, Trypsinogen. Well, you've never heard of trypsinogen. You may have heard of trypsin, an active enzyme itself, but trypsinogen is an inactive enzyme. Kind of like what from the stomach, starts with P. Go back and look it up. Go back and look it up. So trypsinogen is an inactive enzyme. It's going to be converted to trypsin by the acid chyme that secretes from the stomach. So trypsinogen is converted to trypsin. That's chyme. All right. Trypsin is a protease. It's the same as pepsin. What are the end products of breakdown of trypsin right there? Well, the oligopeptides, the small, very small protein, very small amino acid structures themselves. Not a single amino acid. No, no, no. So we're not done with the digestion of trypsin, the digestion of the protein yet. Let's see, what other food are we talking about? Let's see, we got proteins, we got lipids. Oh yeah, the carbohydrates.